Okay, here goes the watch list for June 7th, which would be Tuesday. Spot, I've got way too many lines on this chart at this point. This was an old trend line and then some recent highs on these horizontal lines. I'll pan out a little bit. It's just too busy up there. But anyway, you can see how strong the SPY remains. Not a lot of volume. We're in summertime trading. But the only thing I look to this chart is just to see where we are. You know, are we selling off hard? Are we holding up? And really, the bulls are in charge. This has been made quite the move over the past few weeks. Slowly and on lower volume, but moving nonetheless. So holding up very well. Let's go into the watch list. I'll zoom in a little bit here. BOSC, again, if you watch my videos at all, I like recent high flyers. BOSC is still in that realm, I guess. You had this monster move, and you had a bounce, and then pretty good flush down today. You know, I don't love this, but this is the first time it got below the 8-day since the big pop. I don't know. I'm going to have it on watch, but I'm not in love with it. But you know what? We might get one of the setups we really like. So you got to have the recent high flyers on watch on a chart, and then on an intraday basis, if they set up well, you might catch a nice trade. I don't really love the way this thing trades, BWEM, but it gapped up on news a few sessions ago, lower high, and again a lower high today, and a more narrow range today. So it just goes back on watch for a potential move higher. SWHC, we got another red day right down to the 200 day, and I like this one for a potential bounce now. They got earnings coming out, I think, maybe next week. I thought it was June 16th. I can't, don't quote me on that. I looked it up this weekend, but I can't remember now. And I think there's going to be some buying before earnings because I have a feeling it's going to be an upside surprise. And this just got hit on FBI background checks for May or something like that. This could be a good opportunity for swing traders. But again, I'm not a swing trader. I'm just looking for a trade. But I do like the 2 days down into that 200 day. Great potential bounce setup for tomorrow. TTNP, just another red day. No trades in it today. You know what? 5 was resistance back here and here and here, and got over it here, but then fell down. So. And then became support here. And after the gap up on, I think it was on FDA approval, it's been straight down ever since. So if this one can flush in the morning and maybe take out 5, I'll be looking for a reversal back to the upside for a trade. Remember, I'm a trader. I don't hold overnight. So, but that's an interesting setup there if that can get down to 5 right at the open. And you know what? Let me go back to it real quick. TTNP. Here we go. And a lot of times you'll see stocks in that first 20 to 30 minutes flush down. You can see it bled lower by the end of the day, but this is what I'm looking for tomorrow. Another setup kind of like this. If it were to flush straight down into that $5 area, you might get a really nice bounce. And this thing bounced here from the 520s all the way to 560. If you're a day trader, you understand how much money you can make on just that bounce. So I would really love a flush down below 5 tomorrow for that same kind of setup for a potential long. All right, that's TTNP, CONN. I put out a volume spike in the chat room on this thing when it looked like this. I'd already made my daily goal plus some for the day, so I didn't do anything with it. But a lot of times this is, as a day trader, you see a volume spike, and you notice this 5-minute candle, biggest volume of the day, and almost over most of the volume spikes even on Friday. But this is a beaten up stock. So when you see this, and the high of day is way up here, so you could nibble when you see this volume with a stop below this volume candle. That's one of the strategies I will use. Again, I'd already had my goal in the bank and I didn't want to give any money back, but just think if you'd have just taken that right there on that volume spike, you got a really nice pop all the way up to over 870. It ended up taking out the high of the day. So an impressive bounce there. And it just goes on watch because you've got kind of a hammer candle now after getting pretty beaten up. This one might continue that bounce tomorrow. So that is CONN. JVA had this crazy spike on earnings on Friday and an inside day, but closed strong today. I'll be looking for a continuation move higher tomorrow. CYC, let me say that again. CYCC, a big volume spike here. Went all the way up over 8 before closing at 643. I'm going to look for kind of a narrow range or a red to green tomorrow in that one. Let me check the float real quick. Okay, I'm not positive if it's right, but I'm showing 2.5 million in the float. So a tiny float, which means this one could get another move tomorrow. Definitely want to watch that one. SPEX. Gapped up, sold off, and then you've got like 3 or 4 days where it's just flagging now after this bounce. So if I switch to 15-minute candles, you can kind of see a very tight coiling range here. So I like this up over Friday's high. It becomes interesting. 268. Maybe put that number in your notes, and I'll pan out a little bit more. So you can see the gap up, and definitely, you know, nice support now below around this 240, 250 area. So the next move could be higher. So I like this as a potential long. 268 might get that started. CLRB had this pop, and then another pop with a, you know, now you've got a couple days lower high. I don't really have a trigger price on this thing. I'd almost want this thing to get up near 4, and then I think people might get excited. But, you know, you never know. It might give one of our other setups too, maybe a gap down and then a red to green or something. But the chart's interesting. I don't like the way volume's really tapered off on this, but you know what? Sometimes volume comes right back in. As you can see here is a good example, even on this stock itself, right? Big volume here, and then volume just came down to next to nothing. And then boom, all of a sudden, you have you have over 8 million shares in one day and had a nice secondary pop. So, you know, we'll keep that one on watch too, CLRB. And then WGBS closed at 89 cents, but in after hours, it's trading right at $1. So I think this might be a decent potential gap play tomorrow. I think it went as high as $1.10 in after hours. So we'll see if it holds whatever news spiked this. We'll see if it holds that in the pre-market tomorrow. This might be a decent gap play tomorrow. I'm trying to look up the float on this one real quick too while I'm babbling. It says 17.8 million, and today's June 6th, after hours. WGBN and Takara Bio, I think, announced exclusive distribution agreement for Japan. So there's the headline. So maybe this one gets going tomorrow. Pretty small float. And then lastly, I'm going to watch VBLT. This was one of 2 trades that I took today. The other trade, I got a flat in. Just basically made no money. I think I made $40 on the other trade, but this one made about $1,500 on. This was really nice. And this was just one of our gap and go plays. If you watched my video this weekend, I had seen this popping in after hours on Friday, so I knew this was going to be a gapper today. So it was already on watch, but then this morning when we got up and saw it gapping in the pre-market, which we knew it would, you know, became a little bit more of a primary focus. And real quick, I'll show you the call. And it did everything. This is, if you want to know what I look for in a gap and go play, this is essentially it. I use 2-minute candles as my default. It doesn't mean there's nothing magical about them, but so what happens, it opens at 582, pops to 599, and then sells off, okay? On the very next candle, but it didn't sell off too far. What I'm interested in is if this gets back up through the open, getting long, especially since the high of day is not very far from the open price, right? So the open was 582, so 583 would be my red to green entry. Again, that's through the open, knowing that $6, only 17 cents above that, would be a high of day break, and then maybe really start to squeeze, all right? But then the very next candle, you get a flush, and then it closes green. So now you've got a 2-minute buy setup right below that 583 price that I just talked about, and the high of day above, 17 cents above that. So you definitely have what I call stacked catalysts, or if you can picture dominoes falling, right? So I called this over the microphone in the chat, over this candle. This is a 2-minute buy setup, knowing that 583 is red to green, 599, or I'm sorry, $6 is a high of day break. So you had them stacked, ready to go, like dominoes, right? So the entry idea, 581, worst case stop 20 cents below. And in 2 minutes, you're already up, and I'm already selling some at like 614 just to make sure. So I got long right around 580, selling some at 614, and then the rest is just scaling out into strength. And a secondary idea from Oki in our chat room was long over this little narrow 15-minute candle at 643. So even if you missed the original call at 581, you could have got long again at 643, or you could have got long for the first time, and even that went up $1. So 2 really nice calls on this one, and because it traded pretty well and closed fairly strong and has 30 million in volume today, goes back on watch for a possible red to green tomorrow. And that's another one, like you always hear me say in these videos, deserves to be on watch for a week straight, because, you know, in the next few days we might get another great setup in it. All right, I'm going to quit babbling. We'll be looking for gappers in the morning as well, plus this list, and I'll leave it at that. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.